Welcome to the Latched Mama podcast. This is Lindi today, gorgeous day in Richmond, Virginia, and we are going to chat today with Amber Allen Lane. It's a difficult one for us today, but I think it's incredibly, incredibly important. So we are going to chat today on pregnancy and infant loss. So join us.
You're listening to the Latched Mama podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Wirt, business owner and tired mom of 5. Join us each week as we talk about pregnancy, nursing, parenting, and all things motherhood.
Hi. How are you? It was so nice to meet you today. And I know we've chatted a little bit and gotten a few details, but it's good to be here with you today. And I know this is a very difficult topic. Mm-hmm. We kind of talked a little bit. And but as we went back and forth within the company, we're like, we really need to talk on this. And so I've got a variety of questions, but you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure.
And then I can jump in with a few questions on this. So
okay,
go for it. A few things.
You are exactly right. This is such an important topic. Excuse me. There are so many people that experience the losses of pregnancy and infant, and it's one of those things that it's comforting to know that you're not the only one, but it's such a sad thing too. It's so strange. But my name is Amber Lane. I am a Richmonder. I've been born and raised here my whole life. I am married to what I like to call my middle school sweetheart, Brandon. We've been married 10 years this year. And yeah, I mean, I am a real estate agent, and
Yeah. So how many children do you have?
we have 2.
You have 2 children. How old are they?
2. We have an 8-year-old named Nolan, and we have a 2-year-old named Eloise.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I was telling Amber today when I was sitting here to join us, because usually Melissa Wirt hosts our podcast, and she is about to give birth to her 6th. And this topic was a little bit tricky to talk on, just a lot of feelings and whatnot. So I'm here to step in. But I want to be completely upfront, as I have 6 healthy kids at home, and I'm very lucky to have not experienced this. So I'm going to sit here and not pretend I can even imagine what it feels like. And so I want to hear kind of your story and your journey through this. And so I kind of have a little bit of questions here. Okay, so what was life like for you right after your loss? And maybe you want to chat a little bit about how you were feeling prior and that journey kind of through that experience, maybe not just after, how that can change within you and kind of the outside, kind of what was going on in the home and friends and things like that.
So I think it's important to kind of understand what was happening prior, like you said, to us even getting pregnant. So my body has kind of never worked ever properly. And so we actually knew before we got married that we were going to have to seek out infertility.
Okay.
Or fertility medications. And we were kind of lucky in that, because a lot of people don't know that up front. They have to try, and then they seek out fertility help. And so we started that right away, and we did pills that didn't work. And, we ended up doing, injections.
Okay.
And our first round of injections didn't work in terms of a positive pregnancy test, but it did work in terms of making my body work properly. And on the second round of fertility medications, we got pregnant, and that pregnancy was perfect. It was so perfect. My skin was great. My hair was great. I lost a couple of pounds in the beginning. And we ended up having Nolan. He was a beautiful 8-pound, 8-ounce little boy who is now 8 years old, and he is just a gem. But then we were like, yes, we found something that worked. So whenever we're ready to have our next child or to grow our family anymore, we know exactly what we have to do. And so the next year, when he was about 1, we said, okay, it's time. The next year, we did 2 rounds of fertility treatments, and both times, no baby. And then we did it again the next year, twice, no baby. And the next year, we did 2 more rounds and still no baby. And I think, you might be thinking, like, why did you only try twice? This was a huge financial investment for us. Mm-hmm. It was $3,000 to $5,000 every time just to try to have a baby. So the financial obligations were huge for us. And so we could only do it but so many times.
And when you say try, I'm assuming there's a larger time frame to accomplish that. It's not just like when people are like, oh, I tried for a baby this month. Like I'm not saying this is not the same. We're trying for a baby, correct?
No, right.
There's way more steps involved, right?
Yeah. And I could literally talk hours about fertility because we've done it for so many years. But like I did daily shots, and sometimes those shots would last 3 to 4 weeks to even get my body to produce the eggs, the size that they needed to be to even try to become a baby. Right. And then, so yes, it's much more complicated than just trying. Yeah. But yeah. And so that next year we had done 2, that didn't work. And so the next year, that brings us to kind of 2017. And my husband is actually one of 6 kids, and they're all very close in age, except the youngest one. And so I have 4 sister-in-laws, and 3 of those 4 in 2017 were pregnant. And I just knew 2017 was our year. Like, I was supposed to be pregnant with my sister-in-laws, and we're very close. We're very good friends. And our kids are very close. And so I was really hopeful in 2017, and we did another 2 rounds, and they were both negative. And I remember feeling really defeated. I actually, was celebrating baby showers and the birth of my nieces and nephews. And so we scrounged up just enough money to do a 3rd round that year. And we finally got a positive pregnancy test, and we were just elated. I was like, hallelujah. I knew 2017 was going to be our year. And we ended up telling our family right away. I was probably 3.5 weeks pregnant. Because when you do fertility treatments, you know exactly the timing of everything. And so we told them right away. We didn't want to celebrate on our own because any positive was a celebration to us. Mm-hmm. And if something were to have happened, we certainly didn't want to be grieving alone. And so we told everyone on Thanksgiving, and we were so happy, and we decided to take family pictures because we were going to announce it on our Christmas card that year. And a couple weeks later, I was sitting down, I sat down on my couch, and it felt like I had sat and my son had spilt a drink or something, and I sat down and I realized that is not what happened, and that I was losing our baby. And it was a really, really, really sad time. But I was also so mad. We had waited for 4 years for this positive pregnancy test, and it felt like I was tricked into getting excited for a baby, and it was all just taken away from me in an instant. It was awful.
I don't even have the words.
Yeah.
So what goes through your mind? I mean, there's that anger and sadness, mm-hmm. and what can you do with those feelings? Where did you go from there?
Yeah. So,
and I know you said you had told family and friends,
mm-hmm.
so I'm assuming they were there for you.
Oh, of course. But
what were kind of your next, over the next couple weeks? What did that look like?
So I actually don't know if this is everyone's experience when they have a miscarriage, but we actually had to go in and do an ultrasound because of our fertility medications. Okay. And he had to make sure that there was, in fact, no baby there and we weren't having other complications. And so there's a confirmation of an ultrasound. But then even after that ultrasound, I had to get blood drawn. and this is kind of on the medical side and not necessarily emotional, but I think it plays into a lot of the emotions because you have to see a screen. There is no baby. And then you get a blood drawn and you get a phone call the next day and it says, hey, this is the nurse's office, or this is the nurse from the doctor's office. Your numbers are this. You're not pregnant. 2 days later, you're getting the same call. And then another 2 days, you're getting the same call. And I look back now and those words, you are not pregnant, really stung at the time. Like, I know I am not pregnant. Like, I'm fully aware of that at this point. But I think that now looking back, those words are so important because you don't want to hold on hope and have like a false sense of hope that something's going to change. You know, when you've lost a baby, you have to grieve a baby. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to sit there for months and months and months thinking that something's going to change. You know what I mean? Like, you need that clear, defining definition that you are no longer pregnant. I actually really think that's important. As hard as that is to hear, that would have been really hard for me to hear back then too. But it's really, really important to hear to start the healing.
I almost wish that those words were there needs to be new words around that, in my opinion. Like, I don't like those words because you were pregnant and you lost. Right. It shouldn't be you are not pregnant because I don't know. That's like that's like I don't know. That's an either or, but I feel like there needs to be that acknowledgement. But I do know, like, through some of those medical things and, you know, those nurses working on a daily basis, I think for them it becomes these routine phone calls. And instead of like, there's a person on the other line that just lost a child. So I really do. That needs a little bit of overhaul as far as wording goes. Yeah. And care.
I think that's a great recognition. You know, we had built such a rapport with this doctor's office and this doctor and his nurses that we knew that their intentions were good. So when I heard these words, it wasn't like I felt like they were slapping me in the face. It was just, it was hard to hear just in general. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, I was really angry about this loss. And losing a baby that you haven't even gotten to have that first real ultrasound with, to hear a heartbeat. I know how, you know, it's almost like you get that sense of relief, that first ultrasound, and you get to hear that heartbeat. And I was so angry that I didn't even get that. I didn't get that chance. And so I'm grieving a person that I am totally in love with, and I've never seen them. And I don't have anything tangible other than a memory to remember them by. You know, and I think that that's so tough and that's so hard because we're holding on to something that tangibly, you know, you've never had. And I like to remember and I like to celebrate life. Right. And I hated not having that. And I was so angry that we didn't get to hear that heartbeat. And so just, there's no other words other than I remember that time frame of me just being so, so angry.
Yeah. That's so understandable. So what was happening around you as far as relationships wise, like with your husband, maybe how did that change kind of the feeling in the home? And, you know, were friends reaching out? And what do you think you really needed in that? Like, how could your community of support, what was maybe like a couple of the most important things that they could have done for you?
Yeah. So we have an incredible support system. I am like the luckiest girl in the world with our family and our friends. We have a big family that totally loves us and totally supports us through all of our journeys, and we share those journeys with them. And so everyone was very, very sympathetic. They were reaching out. But I think outside of that, you can have the best support system in the world and still feel like you're missing something.
Absolutely.
And so that baby helped me hit kind of a rock bottom that I needed to hit. And I'm so grateful. And I think that was that baby's calling in my life, honestly. And that next year, my husband and I really leaned into each other. And we strengthened our marriage in a way that we've never had that strong of a marriage, and we decided to lean in and, strengthen our finances and strengthen our community. And we really focused on loving our community that has been so good to us. And I ended up kind of feeling like I needed something else, and I joined a mom's group because, I still had Nolan, and so I joined a mom's group that happened to be at a church. And so we found our home church, and we really built our faith. And I remember one time a member of our family said, just give it some time, and probably about a year you'll be ready again. And in that moment of like loss, I remember thinking, I will never be ready again. I will never put myself through this again. I will never because I won't be able to overcome that grief again if that were to ever happen to us. And sure enough, as we're working on and being very intentional on other aspects of our life, right at a year later, we said, I think it's time to try again. Yeah. And even in the times that those things aren't very helpful,
Yeah.
sometimes they're right and sometimes they're not. But in my case, that was right. But they were very supportive. Everyone was like, can I get you anything? Do you need anything? I'm here for you. I will tell you that one of my friends is my biggest hype woman. She's also my aunt, but, and if I call her and I say, listen, I'm calling you and I need to be sad right now, she is not going to hype me up. She is going to let me have that pity party, and she's going to be pity with me. And we're going to talk about how much this sucks. And we're just going to have those conversations. But if I say, hey, I'm down in the dumps and we need to like hype this up, like I need some oomph back in my step. She's that hype woman. So I think finding that person in your life is so, so important for just healing and, just allowing you to grieve the way that you need to grieve and the way that you want to grieve.
Well, I was going to say, I think you're incredible for, that healing kind of journey on that year, because I know that kids and marriages, and I mean, I can't relate, but something like this would have probably just rendered me useless. And I'm sure you felt those times, just like you said, hey, I need to have a bad day and just kind of be in those feelings, feel it like they are real. It is okay. And then you could recognize, hey, I need to pick me up today. Like I can do this. I can keep going. And, so I don't know. I just think that's incredible that you guys turn toward each other, which a lot of these tough things in marriages and kids, I mean, they really do. Like we are kind of selfish creatures, and we kind of do us sometimes, and we can turn away. And I think it's absolutely amazing that that's the journey that you guys took over that year. I think it's incredible. But I also love how you say, like, it is a down day today. It is totally cool. Like, help me with it. Sit with me for a little bit, and then let's go, kind of thing. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And, I summed up that whole year in just a minute or so. And so it's not an instant thing. Me hitting rock bottom and then leaning into my husband was not an overnight thing. It was something we, over time, after we started healing, it was something that we could do. It was something like we have, it was almost like we felt we had no other direction to go. We had to start leaning into each other, or we were just going to break. Yeah. And finding that community that I didn't even know I needed. It was just, I'm summing it up so quickly, but it was so involved, and that didn't come easy. I mean, it was probably 6 months after my miscarriage that we found a church and we leaned into our faith a little bit more. It wasn't like I was angry. I certainly didn't want to be leaning into my faith right after I'd lost a baby. And that's not everyone's case, but that was my case, and that was real. And I had never felt like that before.
Now, do you want to share a little bit? You shared with me before, just in this age of social media, it's very easy for us to find some community and some support online, which I do think you need to be careful. But, for those mamas at home and feeling alone, I think there are some other resources that you can reach out and find. So did you find some other places of kind of some sources for help?
Yeah, for sure. So when even in a community where everything is great and everyone is so loving and nurturing, most of my friends and family have not experienced a loss. And so it's hard to be able to express what's going through. And I know, like, you're so sweet, and I know you love me and you care about me, but you don't get it.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't get every situation either because I haven't lived it. But, and so I did end up turning to, even my husband doesn't get it. He's not the woman, right? He's a man, and he's a man who's lost a baby. And I can't understand that because, he has no control over it either. But, so I did lean into some online forums. And it was nice to find a community of women who were going through the exact same thing as me. And we could really just talk about what's happening, what's next steps, how are we getting through feelings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, that's really great. I know you talked a little bit. We've kind of hit several of these questions that I had because we've talked about kind of, your kind of steps to healing and the kind of that time.
Well,
you've chatted a bit on the infertility. No, feel free to add more.
No. So there is a little bit more to our infertility journey.
Yeah,
actually,
I would love to hear about that because I'm very experienced on it, which I hate to say that, but
so that I told you that we were ready a year after we.
Oh yes, sorry.
No. So we were ready about a year after, and we were like, okay, we're going to do these fertility treatments again, and this is because we feel like this is the time, and so we do one round of fertility treatments.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
I know you said kind of early on in your journey, you're like, this is what works, and then you tried it multiple times again, it didn't. So when you kind of went back. Did you have those questions like, what do we do? We're ready. Do we do the same thing? Do you recommend? Like, kind of what was going on in that conversation? So we actually, very early on in our infertility journey, I had read a blog about one of the most important things you do with your partner is decide how far you're willing to go, whether that be pills, injections, IVF, adoption, fostering, really have those conversations. And my husband and I decided very early on that IVF would be too far for us. And mostly for financial reasons. We just didn't see how that would be feasible for us. And so we said, if we're going to grow our family, with fertility treatments, this is going to be as far as we're going to go. And these fertility treatments, quote unquote, were working. They were making my body do what it needed to do to help or try to produce a baby. It was just the actually production. It's just like a woman, you don't get pregnant every single month. Right.
But your body is working, to the point that you could get pregnant.
That's right.
So it was like that for us. So I think, it could have been timing some months. It could have been that it just didn't work. And we were only doing 2 rounds a year. It wasn't like this was a consistent every other month thing for, 4 to 5 years. So we ended up doing injections again. And I end up getting a positive pregnancy test really, really early again. And I go in and they take my blood and they're like, yeah, you're definitely pregnant. And because that's how they confirm it before you go into your ultrasound. And so our first ultrasound comes. And of course, I am so scared because I'm like, okay, I've had a miscarriage before, but are we now going to go in and there's going to be something else?
Well, and that's where I was going to kind of ask you is how does that mindset change? It almost, I could, and I'm going to try to imagine if it was me, I would almost feel a bit robbed of those feelings that you feel like it is positive, kind of like, back to your first. And now you're kind of like, or maybe I would be, don't want to put words into your mouth. I would be like, okay, it's positive, but it doesn't feel the same because you have that kind of anxiety and worry about it. To where it should be like this joyous time, right?
Yeah.
So sorry I interrupted you, but that just is kind of what popped into my mind. Like, how are you feeling? Yes, you were so excited, but I'm sure you've had all these other feelings flood in.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, we were happy, but I was very reserved on giving my emotions over, so to say.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get my hopes up because I knew what that felt like. And even though my life felt better, because we had been working on it and that baby really projected that, it's almost like a hesitation to just fall in love head over heels.
Right.
And so we go into this first ultrasound and my husband is right there with me. And at this point, I've seen a ton of ultrasounds because Infertility, you go like every week, twice a week.
How early were you right now going?
Probably.
Like, what were you expecting to
I would probably
kind of see?
7 weeks at this point. So
a heartbeat.
For sure.
Okay.
For sure. And the doctor pulls up the screen and I instantly am like, there are 2 babies on this ultrasound. And my husband and I are like in awe, right? And I'm waiting because I feel like, and I don't know if you've ever felt this, but my heart, and I feel like I don't breathe until that heartbeat comes on that ultrasound. it's like, yeah. And so I'm waiting. I'm like, can you please just hurry up and find these heartbeats? And so he finds the first heartbeat and it is great. It's perfect. And he goes to the other one and he finds the heartbeat and it is good and it is perfect. And the only thing that was really catching us up is the second baby was further away. And so we could see the heartbeat, but he said it was harder to hear. And that's not unlikely at 7 weeks pregnant. So he said, hey, I want you to come in 2 weeks. And we're going to check this again because I want to make sure that this is an actual viable twin pregnancy. So we go in 2 weeks. The babies have grown. They're both the same size. They have, they've progressed. And their heartbeats, I remember they were identical to the beats per minute. And we got to hear them both. And he's like, oh yeah, these are crystal clear. Everything is good to go. So we are ecstatic at this point. I mean, our family already knew, but when we went our second time, our family knew we were pregnant. They didn't know we were having twins. So once we confirmed it that second time, we said, hey, oh my goodness, there are 2 babies. And we are just beyond ourselves. And we're like, oh my goodness, how are we going to do 2 babies at the same time? I know you have twins, right? Did that go through your mind?
Yes. Yeah, I had some different feelings, but yes. Yeah, it's kind of a mind blown thing. Yeah. And, we're thinking, oh, financially, space wise, there's a lot that goes into that thought process. And so we get through Christmas and my birthday is right after Christmas. And then, so, January 8th is like 2 days after my birthday. And we invited my sister-in-law to come along to the 12-week ultrasound. And, cause like I said, we're really good friends and, we're very close and we go to the ultrasound. And I remember having a pep talk with myself. I'm like, Amber, in my head, I'm like, Amber, you always ruin this. Like, this is supposed to be a joyous time, like we talked about.
And you always get so anxious over nothing. There is nothing wrong. There is no physical thing that showed you that something's wrong. And I don't know why you do this to yourself, because then you can't enjoy it while you're here. And so I kind of relax a little bit because I'm talking myself down. And we get in there. Again, nothing physically has changed. Everything's good. And he pulls up the ultrasound. And if you can imagine, on a TV, like your fist, something the size of your fist beside something the size of your finger. And I instantly knew. And then the doctor said, I am so sorry. Basically, from the last time we had seen one of the babies, they stopped growing. And they actually call it vanishing twin syndrome. And I'd never heard that term before that moment, ever. I didn't even know it was a possibility. And essentially your body doesn't expel this baby. It actually absorbs back into your body. So you actually would never know that you lost this twin if you didn't see it. Yeah. And I'll tell you, in the beginning, I was so mad that with our first loss that we didn't get to see a heartbeat. It didn't make it any easier. Mm-hmm. And so at the same time, the other twin was doing great. And so now we didn't just lose a baby, but we're also needing to celebrate another baby. And so that was such a weird, strange emotion. Yeah. Because it's like you can be sad, but you can only be but so sad. Right. This is what you're telling, or I'm telling myself, because you still have this one, but this sadness is still very real. Right. And this loss is very real. And we saw this baby grow, and I was so sad that it looked like this baby was fine. This baby was fine. It was growing. We saw a heartbeat. And I ended up actually looking up statistics after this. Once you see a baby's heartbeat, there's a 5% chance of vanishing twin syndrome. It's the chances plummet once it actually develops and has a heartbeat and all that good stuff. So it was hard. The thought of my daughter not having her twin, and
yeah. Did they offer any other insight into that?
No.
Kind of looked it up, because I know. I mean, that question, why, just to so many things, is just you want that answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And nothing. And there's nothing to test for. I mean, the baby's getting reabsorbed. There's literally not a baby. 2 weeks later, we couldn't even see it on an ultrasound anymore. It was it was never there, but it was there.
Well, I'm almost wondering how difficult that is to, and I don't want to say the wrong thing, but almost kind of like a closure. I can imagine with a miscarriage, maybe you missed a heartbeat, but there might be kind of a physical kind of conclusion, mm-hmm. or not that you want to celebrate that, but remember that life. And mm-hmm. this almost feel like it's completely intangible. Mm-hmm. So how do, like you said, it's I want to hold on to this, but there's literally, I can't see anything anymore. There really wasn't mm-hmm. a physical hinting to that. Yeah. So how did you go through that pregnancy? Kind of what was on your mind?
So I had an ultrasound. And so I actually did get pictures of that baby. Okay. And I have pictures of its heartbeat. And so that I definitely cherish. That was in our maternity pictures. And that was in my daughter's newborn pictures. And so that is something I will always cherish. And I will always cherish the fact that she is a twin. But you're right. You're still grieving something you can't see. And it was early enough to where, even though I'm almost positive it was a girl, I don't know. And so
did they talk about the sacs or anything early on to give you an idea of whether they were fraternal or
right,
monodi or whatnot?
No, they didn't go into that. I think that happens when you
Did
switch
they look
over.
really separate?
Oh, they're definitely separate. I'm almost positive they were fraternal
Mm-hmm.
twins. Yeah. So they didn't share anything.
Okay.
But I know that there's a bunch of different types of twins, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We hadn't gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think that, you go home and you're like, okay, wait a minute. What are the chances that this baby bounces back? And it's always a rough road to go down when you Google something, because you'll find the best outcomes. And then it gives you this hope that just maybe, I didn't say it out loud, but just maybe when we deliver this baby, there's going to be 2 in there, and I think it was hard not to hold on to, because we had seen this baby grow. We had heard its beautiful heartbeat, and letting go of that was really, really hard, because as the syndrome is, it just vanished.
Yeah.
Like nothing vanishes in this world. You know what I mean? Like if there's a cup on the table, there's a cup on the table.
Yeah. How does it just?
It just vanished. And we watched it before our very eyes. It was crazy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So she is how old now?
Eloise is 2.
Eloise is 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you do something special for that other little one? And even your other loss, do you guys do something to remember those?
I think with Eloise's twin, maybe it's like a technical dark humor, but I always am like, oh yeah, they added a little too much spice to Eloise, so this world couldn't handle her twin. And that's like, that is my joy in still bringing her twin up. And my kids know, I talk about, hey, Eloise was a twin. And they can see the pictures and stuff. Mm-hmm. The first one's a little bit harder to explain because there's nothing to show them. Like, hey, I was pregnant, and that's all I know about that pregnancy. Whereas I know just a smidgen more about her, so it's easier to put into context. But so I think chatting, just saying it out loud, that there's these 2 babies in our family that aren't here on earth with us, but they're very much my children, is my children that are here are. And I have a few friends, and it's okay that it's a few, I promise. Because I don't think I could handle more than this, but there are a few friends that, once a year they'll just say, hey, thinking about you and your babies here on earth and not here on earth, and so it's just a nice reminder that they're not forgotten. Like, if you think about it, you don't want people to forget your children.
Right.
And they would never forget about Nolan and Eloise. And so, but I hold those other babies to that same regard.
Right.
And so it is endearing that my friends remember, and that they honor that.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe going into this last question, I think that's almost a very good suggestion, is kind of, what advice would you give a mom who has a friend going through a loss or infertility?
Yeah.
How can they support?
Some people are very reserved. I know tons of people that just don't talk about their fertility journeys or their losses. But if it's happening, I think just simply asking them, hey, what kind of friend do you need right now? Do you need a tub of ice cream and us to sulk all night, or do you want me to be your hype woman and give you all the feel goods? Because I can do both. And just trying to be that person. Try to give a little grace when you feel like maybe they've stepped back.
Right.
And on the other side of that, I'll say, as a mom of loss and a mom of a lot of struggle, there were a lot of baby showers that I had to go to. And I remember one of the last times that we didn't get pregnant with fertility, the very next day we found out I had to hold my brand new nephew. And even in those hard, I mean, I cried holding him, not because I wasn't excited for them. I love that little boy so much. He is so cute. And I was so happy for his mom and dad, my brother and sister-in-law. But at the same time, I was so sad for us. And in that moment, they just let me kind of have that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't say anything about it, which was so good. But even in the struggles, just try to show up.
Mm-hmm.
You want to try to show up, because that is a moment I would have regretted forever not meeting him the first day he was born.
Yeah.
You know, he was so perfect. And it's okay to be extremely sad for you and so happy for someone else. Two emotions can exist at the same time. And I think that sometimes we allow ourselves to forget that. And so just grace on both sides is so, so important. And we've been really, really lucky with that.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, just as a friend trying to figure out, how can I support this friend? I'm almost wondering, just not saying or being scared is not a good idea. I would almost think that be confident to ask the question, what do you want right now? What do you need right now? And not assuming that they need some big basket of goodies, not assuming that they want me to do this, but just to ask a genuine, what do you need and what do you want?
Yeah.
Would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. But also don't hold back. Like, we have some very sweet friends that gave us the most beautiful ornament that talks about, one twin having angel wings while the other one gets to walk around here. And that is something I will cherish for the rest.
Aww,
I mean,
that's a wonderful gift.
It was so beautiful, and it's packaged all by itself. Like, it does not get to touch anything else, because if that ornament ever breaks, I will be heartbroken. But, so I don't think that you need to hold back. If you think a basket of goodies is your love language and you need to show them that, then that's certainly it. But I think we overthink it. And I've done it at times where I'm like, they must be bombarded with a ton of emotions and a ton of people. And then I haven't reached out. And then I become the friend that wasn't there for them.
Yeah.
And it's happened to me, and I've gone through it. And so, yeah, I think just a simple, hey, how are you doing? And I'll tell you, when we lost our twins, I had 5 Facebook friends that announced twin pregnancies. 5. I've never seen that many twin pregnancies in my life. And one of those mamas, we were just acquaintances. I was friends with her husband in high school, and she was one of the consistent people that reached out to me. And even though she was getting something that I had lost, I always felt like it was so endearing that she thought of me, and she really wanted to know how I was doing. And we were just acquaintances. And I still remember her to this day, and how honored I was that she thought of me.
Yeah.
So really it could be as simple as that. Hey, I'm thinking about you today.
And that was going to be my next question, because I see it often. A friend has gone through a loss. I'm pregnant. I don't know what to do, what to say. I don't want to hurt her. And you're kind of in this stuck position. So how would you navigate that? What would you encourage?
For me, and this might not be for everyone, but for me, my heart would be broken if my friends didn't allow me in some of the most important events of their life because they are having a baby and I just lost one, because then you're losing out twice,
right.
You're losing friends, you're losing that little baby, so for me, I definitely do not want you to step back. Could it make me sad? For sure. But I'm not sad because you're pregnant. I'm sad because our situation really sucks.
Yeah. And maybe that comes into that balance of friendship in, yes, I'm pregnant, but my friend is going through a whole lot, and you're acknowledging, I think you can healthily acknowledge both.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And as a woman of loss, you have to think had you not lost this baby, you would be celebrating too. And I don't think it's fair to think that they shouldn't be celebrating as much as they should, or not around me or something. And so I think we have to kind of check ourselves a little bit.
Right.
Because it's easy to get in that emotion of like, wow, that kind of feels like it's in my face, but it's not. And we should be celebrating these beautiful lives, even in the heartbreak.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Of
sharing
course.
today. October 15th is National kind of Remembrance Day for pregnancy and infant loss. So if you yourself have been through this, take a moment, think about those loved ones. And also if you have a friend, Amber made a fantastic point to reach out and let them know that you are thinking of them and their little ones.